병기의 피해수준. 환풍구를 통해 맞은 표. 선글라스 쓴 남자를 저격해.
저 남자.
A first-person camera glides down a narrow Korean hallway. A young woman's hand grips a knife, then a gun, then another knife. Within seconds, men begin to die. The camera never cuts. The viewer sees through her eyes as she punches, stabs, fires, and dismembers an entire room of armed gangsters. Bullets crack, bodies drop, blood paints the walls. She doesn't slow down even when she runs out of ammunition. She picks up whatever's within reach, a kitchen knife, a pipe, a hatchet, and keeps moving, one corpse at a time. By the time she finally stumbles in front of a mirror, the camera pulls back, and the audience meets her face for the first time. Her name is Sook-hee. She is barely standing, soaked in blood, breathing like a wounded animal. The police arrive moments later. She does not resist. This is how the film begins, and nothing about what just happened, the rage, the precision, the desperation will make sense for another 90 minutes. Sook-hee is taken into custody and transported under a black hood to a remote facility. When the hood comes off, she finds herself in a sterile underground compound. A cold-eyed woman named Chief Kwon stands across from her. Kwon explains that Sook-hee is not going to prison. Her file is now classified. Her life now belongs to the Republic of Korea. Sook-hee tries to fight her way out. She fails. And then Kwon slides a medical report across the table. Sook-hee is pregnant. Everything changes. Kwon offers her a contract, 10 years of service as a covert operative, and at the end of it, she and her child receive new identities and full freedom. Sook-hee, with nothing else left in the world, signs. Soon after, surgeons reconstruct her face. The woman who killed an entire gang ceases to exist. A new woman, registered under the name Chae-yeon-soo, takes her place. Now begins the second life. Inside the agency's training compound, she is housed with other recruits. They are drilled in marksmanship, hand-to-hand combat, acting, even cooking. Every recruit will eventually be released into civilian life under a constructed identity, and they must blend in seamlessly. She is the strongest fighter in the building, and the other recruits know it. A senior trainee tests her one night and gets crushed against a wall for the trouble. From behind a surveillance monitor, an agent named Jung-hyun-soo watches Sook-hee with a quiet, lingering interest. He doesn't yet know he is about to be assigned as her handler. The film breaks here, the way it will break many times into memory.
A small house in Yanbian, China.
Many years earlier, a little girl crouches under her father's bed as a brutal struggle unfolds above her. Her father is being beaten to death. She presses her hand to her mouth so she doesn't make a sound. She sees only the killer's boots. And then she hears something she will never forget, a soft, casual whistled tune, drifting lazily from the man standing over her father's corpse. Her father, it turns out, had once been a hitman himself, and the men who killed him were hunting a stolen jewel he had hidden away. They tear through the house. They don't find it. They leave. The little girl crawls out from under the bed and stares at her father's body until someone else finds her a former associate named Ha-kyun. He does not bring her home. He sells her into a child prostitution ring. Years pass before another man storms into that place with a gun and a calm expression and kills every man in the building. The girl, older now, looks up at him from the floor. His name is Jung. He takes her with him. He raises her. He trains her. He becomes the only family she has left, and eventually, when she is grown and lethal and devoted, he marries her. Back in the present, Sook-hee prepares for her graduation exam. The mission is straightforward in design and brutal in execution: assassinate a high-profile target in his heavily guarded estate. If she succeeds, she earns her new face, her new name, and the chance to raise her daughter on the outside. She infiltrates the mansion at night. The target is more alert than her briefing suggested, and the fight nearly costs her. Bodyguards pour into the corridor as she escapes through a window, and what begins as a clean extraction becomes a high-speed motorcycle pursuit through the streets of Seoul. Then comes one of the film's most talked-about sequences. Riding at full speed, attacked from both sides by sword-wielding men on bikes, Sook-hee fights without ever fully losing control of the road. She slashes, ducks, and counters as motorcycles flip around her. When the chase finally collapses into a multi-vehicle pileup, she rams a police car off the road and plunges off a bridge into the river below. She vanishes into the dark water. The exam is over. She has passed. The agency grants her something she has never had in her life: a small apartment, a fabricated identity as a stage actress, and custody of her young daughter, Yoon-hae. For the first time, Sook-hee has something resembling a home. and on the very first day she moves in, she meets the man living next door. His name, he says, is Jung Hyun-soo. He stumbles into her life with a kind of nervous, awkward kindness, offering to help carry her boxes, fumbling through small talk, dropping things at the worst possible moments. He seems harmless. He seems normal. He seems exactly like the kind of person a guarded single mother might cautiously open up to over time. What she does not know is that he is the agent Kwon assigned to watch her. The bumbling neighbor is her surveillance. What neither of them anticipates is how quickly the cover starts to feel real. Hyun-soo chats up bus drivers to wait for her when she's running late with the stroller. He pushes her shopping cart through the supermarket. He waits at the train station with an umbrella when it rains. He is gentle with Yoon-hae, who adores him. Is there anything more dangerous to a trained killer than someone who is simply, stubbornly kind? Sook-hee resists for a while, and then she stops resisting. Soon they are together. Soon the lie becomes the truth, at least on his side. In violation of every protocol the agency holds sacred, Hyun-soo has actually fallen in love with her. She doesn't entirely believe it yet, but she lets herself imagine, for the first time in years, that maybe a normal life is real and possible. Then a new assignment arrives. Sook-hee and a female colleague are dispatched to a luxury hotel where they pose as bartenders to lift sensitive files from a corrupt executive. The first half of the operation goes smoothly. Sook-hee distracts the target with practiced flirtation, lifts his phone, locks herself in the bathroom, and copies the data. When she returns to the suite, her colleague is being held at gunpoint. The men know. They demand what she took. Sook-hee pretends to comply, and then, in a single motion, she draws a blade and turns the room into a slaughterhouse. Both targets die. So does her colleague. She walks out covered in someone else's blood, and on the way home she calls Kwon. The woman who lived to fight is starting to wonder how much longer she has before her luck runs out. She has a daughter waiting at home now. She has a man who loves her. For the first time, she lets herself want out. Kwon agrees to release her after one final mission. Sook-hee and Hyun-soo set a wedding date. The agency, in a small mercy, lets the ceremony go ahead, but there is a target to be eliminated that day. A gang boss attending an event nearby, and Sook-hee will fulfill the contract before walking down the aisle. She slips into a hotel restroom, reaches into the toilet tank, and pulls out the components of a disassembled sniper rifle. She assembles it in under a minute and lines up her shot through a ventilation grill. She finds her target through the scope, and then she stops breathing. The man she is supposed to kill is Jung-sang, the man who raised her, the man who trained her, the man she watched bury years ago. He is alive. The rifle wavers in her hands. The shot goes wide. The wedding scheduled to follow suddenly seems to belong to someone else's life. That night, Jung-sang traces the bullet's trajectory back to her position. He pulls the hotel surveillance footage, studies the woman who walked in carrying the rifle, and recognizes her instantly despite the new face. He has always known her. He arranges a meeting at a quiet restaurant the next day and sits across from her like nothing has changed. She pretends not to know him. She tells him she is married now. She tells him to leave her alone. He does for the moment. The next morning, a memory card arrives at her door. On it is an audio recording his men captured the night before, the voice of Hyun-soo speaking to Chief Kwon, the handler discussing the asset. Their entire relationship laid bare as an operation. What she doesn't yet know is that the recording ends before the most important part. She hears only the betrayal. She does not hear the love. In a quiet act of revenge, she feeds the location of a fellow female agent to Jung-sang's men. The agent is captured before she ever steps out of the elevator. Kwon notices, because of course she notices, and orders Sook-hee brought in for questioning. Sook-hee is escorted into a car by a team of agents. On the way back to the facility, a motorcycle slams into the side of the vehicle. Jung-sang's men pour out with guns drawn and execute every agent in the car. Only Kwon survives, dragging herself away into the dark. Jung-sang opens the door and offers Sook-hee his hand. He tells her it is time to come home. She tells him she will, but first she must collect her daughter. She runs toward the apartment building. She is still in the parking lot when the world disappears in a single white flash. The upper floors of her building blow outward in a wall of fire and concrete. And then, falling from the smoke above, she sees two figures plummeting toward the ground. It is Hyun-soo. He is holding Eun-hye. They land in front of her. Both of them die instantly. She does not scream. She does not move. She simply stares. When she finally finds her way back to Kwon, the surviving handler plays her a second piece of evidence surveillance footage from outside the building. It shows Hyun-soo being intercepted by Jung-sang's men, the little girl still in his arms. To protect Eun-hye, Hyun-soo lies and tells them the child is Jung-sang's daughter, hoping that connection will keep her alive. It is precisely the wrong thing to say. Jung-sung's voice comes through on a phone. He orders Hyun-soo to kill the child himself, the only condition under which he is allowed to live. Hyun-soo, holding the daughter of the woman he loves, refuses. So Jung-sang detonates the bomb himself, timed to the exact moment Sook-hee would arrive in the parking lot. The point was never to kill her. The point was to leave her with absolutely nothing, no daughter, no husband, no false dream of a normal life, so that she would have no choice but to come back to him and become, once again, the weapon he built her to be. Kwon hands her one last gift before letting her go. It is the full version of the recording Jung-sang's edit had cut short. In it, Hyun-soo confesses to Kwon that the relationship is no longer a cover. He loves Sook-hee. He loves Yoon-hee. He wants to take them both somewhere safe and never look back. Sook-hee listens to the dead man's voice in silence for a long time. Then she stands up and goes to work. She drives to Jung-sang's compound and walks through the front door firing. Men go down on every side of her. The ones who don't go down run. She moves through the building floor by floor until she finds his office. And finally, the two of them are alone in a room together. She asks him a single question. Did he ever love her? He answers with a different confession. He is the one who killed her father. He has always been the one. He found her under that bed, raised her, trained her, married her, and used her. And the only reason he ever let her live was that her grief made her useful. The plan was never love. The plan was a weapon. The marriage was a cage. The honeymoon, death, was the moment he believed he had no further use for her. The room erupts. They tear through walls and out into the street. Jung-sang escapes onto a public bus and orders the driver to flee. Sook-hee chases the bus down the highway in her own car, climbs out the driver's window at full speed, and leaps onto the moving vehicle. She breaks through the rear window. She cuts down his men one by one with an axe. The driver dies. The bus careens off the road and tumbles. When the wreckage stops, both of them are still alive. Barely. She walks toward him with the axe lowered at her side. And as she stands over him, bloodied and trembling, Jung-sang does something almost gentle. He smiles, and through broken teeth, he begins to whistle. It is the same tune, the same casual little melody she heard from under her father's bed when she was a child. The face above her father's corpse. The face that adopted her. The face she married. They have always been the same face. She brings the axe down. Police sirens swarm the highway. Officers spill out with weapons drawn, shouting at her to get on the ground. She is surrounded exactly as she was in the very first scene of the film. The first time she ever killed her way out of a building she should not have entered. She looks up, she looks straight into the camera, and she smiles. For a woman who spent her entire life loving men who were using her, who killed her way through 2 lifetimes to find the one truth nobody wanted her to find, that smile is not victory. It is not relief. It is not even madness exactly. It is the look of someone who has finally, after everything, seen the full shape of her own story and understood that there was never going to be anywhere left to go.